Hi, sorry, we're live. Hi, everyone. It's Tuesday, April Fool's Day. We know we're between you and lunch, so we're gonna go as quick as we can. I'm Lori Houghton, I represent Essex Junction. So just a couple of reminders, 4 p.m. today in the cafeteria, we have a legislative art social. I hope people can make it, should be fun. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. in the House chamber, we have our first State of the Guard, which should also be very interesting. And after, there'll be a reception. We are back in our committees this week, so I think everyone's following the calendar. There was nothing on notice today for tomorrow, so that's pretty exciting. And we are still doing floor times of 1 and 1 on Wednesday, Thursday, and 9:30 on Fridays. We have 2 topics today. We're going to have Shay come up and talk about charters, and then we're going to switch to education. And normally we have governance on education go before finance, but Charlie and I have to get out for a meeting by 12:15, so we're going to have him go first, and then Peter will finish up with Karen here. So Shay.
Thank you. Shay Waters Evans from Charlotte. If your town has a charter that was passed over town meeting day, charters are exempt from crossover deadlines, so we can take them up now. They don't just automatically arrive in the legislature. However, you need to present it. Usually a representative, or the representative from that town is the sponsor of the bill that puts the charter through the system. So you need to contact Ledge Council as soon as possible. There's already a queue of charters. It takes a few weeks if it's going to be taken up. If it's something that's fairly non-controversial and ready to go, then it should be, usually we get them done by the end of the session. If it's a little more complicated, then maybe it might bump into next year. But if it's important to your community and it's important to you, make sure you are in touch with Ledge Council so we can get that through GovOps ASAP.
Great. Any questions? Yeah. All right, now we'll have Charlie come up. I'm sorry, my last names. We'll start on education.
Great, thank you. Hi, Charlie Kimball, representative from Windsor 5 from Woodstock. So I'm pinch hitting for Emily Kornheiser today. She can't be with us. So we want to first thank the Education Committee for doing their good work on H454, and we are going to be putting our pieces into that bill, and that's what we're working on this week. There are 4 pieces which we have talked about before, but first is looking at reappraisals of properties to be done in reappraisal assessment districts, 12 across the state. And we're working through all of the items within that, including appeals, how those are processed, how reappraisals are done, the involvement of the property and valuation review department, or yes, department within the tax department. So that is a long bill. I think we're pretty good on most of those things. You'll probably hear from your listers or assessors if you haven't already, with some input and feedback on some of the aspects of the bill. But this really keeps intact the existing system of property assessors and listers, but adds regional-wide assessments for more frequent reappraisals. That's what it does on that. Not re-inspections, that's different. That's physical. I need to see the things you just did to your house, and reappraisals is more of a market assessment based on the statistics. The second piece that we have is on, well, I'll get to that one last. Oh, no, not that one yet. Okay, yeah. Property classifications. This is not property categories. There are already property categories. What the listers do, I think there's 15 different property categories. What we're looking at is creating a different system of a way to tax properties about how they're used. And this is often a desire of our caucus and the legislature to be able to tax properties at different rates depending on how they're used. There's already the current use program, but there's not a program to say these are second homes, these are primary homes. There is a homestead and a non-homestead, right? But there's also apartments. We've got 9 different categories: residential A, B, apartments, affordable housing, commercial, resort, industrial, undeveloped, and public use. Those are 9 additional categories in addition to homestead. So we're working through some of the things on that. We've taken a lot of testimony. It's a committee bill right now. It's 25-0153. And we'll be working on that over the next few days as well. Property tax credits. As you know, the existing system we have is mind-numbingly complex as to how to figure out what your property tax credit is. So we've got a much simpler proposal, a concept to bring to you. It's a committee bill as well. And it really creates a percentage exemption on your homestead. So it's not a property tax credit, it's a homestead exemption that is then reduced from your property tax bill. So it works a little differently. And it's first income based, so that if you're up to $115,000 in income, then it does exempt a certain percentage of your property value. So for instance, if it's under, I don't have the figures, maybe somebody else does on the committee. Let's just say, for instance, if it's under $10,000, I'm not sure if that's the right number, then you pay 0%. So it exempts 100% of your property value. We're working with a concept, we've got a presentation this afternoon of what to look at for a top end of that, because obviously if you have a $10,000 in income and a $3 million home, then you don't get that for free. So that's some of the stuff we'll be working on with the property tax credits. And the foundation formula. This is all related to education because we fund education through our property taxes from a statewide education property tax. So that's why we're working to make sure that the system to evaluate or assess the value of your property is consistent, accurate, and done more frequently, because the average grand list is, I think, 2016 is the age of it right now. So we want to make sure that it's more frequent, so that those CLAs go from 50, 60% to 100%. So anyway, the foundation formula is the last piece, and we do have also draft legislation and committee and a committee bill. We'll be revising it this week based on input from Professor Tammy Colby, who has been providing us with testimony and also joint committees with the Education Committee previously. So we will be incorporating her input based on a cost approach, which is trying to approximate the current cost of educating students in Vermont, not some future cost of educating students in Vermont. So it's to be the current state. So that's what we're working on, is to make sure that we are providing enough resources to the school system as currently configured. As the education transformation happens, as conceived by the Education Committee, that will result in different costs, in which case we will have to readjust the base and the weights that are included in that. So that's kind of a very high level summary, but so we'll be passing that out this week so that we can be sure that it goes and meets the crossover deadline and joins the Education Committee bill. Just small pieces. Each one of those could be a big one.
Any questions?
Tom? Yeah, okay.
Representative Tom Stevens. Charlie, just very quickly, when you talk about the income parts, I think the income proposal, is that adjusted gross or is that adjusted?
The concept, I believe, still works on household income. Anyone? Yes, thank you. Household income. So it doesn't change that concept at all. And currently, the way that's set up with the $47,000 circuit breaker, thank you. Circuit breaker still exists. But it goes up to $115,000, which is where the current property tax credit, based on the math, is where your credit eligibility maxes out right now. So it tries to mirror the same kind of income limits that we have now, but just makes it a lot simpler. It eliminates the lag from the year in which you earn your property tax credit as to when you apply it. So it makes it simpler that way as well. I'll only say one more thing and then I got to go. The base formula has, it's really important that the foundation formula is what's included in the base. So that's what we're going to be working on over the next couple of days too, to make sure the base is right. The other thing is spending over base. We're not aligned on what we're going to call this because SOB doesn't really sound right. But spending over base, the concept is that a school district could spend more than the base amount allows. But there's right now a concept of limiting that to 10% over the base. There's also a concept that if you have taxing capacity that is greater than other communities and the poorest taxing capacity, then there's a recapture amount. And that recapture would then go into a reserve that would fund school construction projects. So state aid for school construction. So that's the concept that we're working with. We haven't finalized the details of percentages or how it works yet. There's a lot in that, but that's what we're looking at, the spending over base.
Thank you for that. Oh, okay, we're gonna have the last question, then we're gonna switch.
Then I must go.
I don't know. I think this isn't working. I think we have no mics today. So just speak loudly, please.
Why are we talking into it?
I don't know. It's not working.
Good. Thanks. Rep. Campbell, in the pacification bill case, how are second homes? Where are they on the list?
So there is, right now, the concept that we have in the bill may look different by the end of the week, but what is in the bill is we have second, homestead, and then we have 9 other classifications of non-homestead.
Yeah.
So within that, there's residential A and B, and that's a concept of residential A is under $1 million, residential B is over $1 million.
Yes.
And then we have resorts, we have commercial, industrial, public use, apartment, affordable housing, and did I miss one? Undeveloped. Undeveloped land. Yep.
So that, I think that's my question. So where second homes fall?
Second homes would be in that residential A or B, which remember we have just non-homestead, and then we have the 9 categories of,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Residential A or B, non-homestead.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for the work of Ways and Means. We're gonna let you go to your meeting.
Thank you so
Reach
much.
out to anybody on Ways and Means this week if you have questions.
Yes, we have Bridget Burkhardt, what's her name again? Rebecca Holcomb. Who else is here?
We can reach out to you.
Perfect. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna switch gears. Peter, you're gonna let us know what is in the education programming piece.
Okay, so on Friday, the House Education Committee, Peter Conlon, Chair of the House Education Committee from Cornwall. So on Friday, the House Education Committee passed out a strike-all amendment of H 454, which today was referred to Ways and Means. And I gotta say, I was kind of struck today by the similarity, listening to the member from Northfield talking about what transformation takes. It takes time, it takes money, and it takes having the right people in the room. And you'll see a lot of that reflected in our education proposal as well. You've heard me talk a lot about it already, so maybe I'll just kind of run through the details, not very detailed, for you now. So really it's got sort of specific things, and it also has a lot of intent, meaning this is what we expect to happen over the ensuing years as we go forward. So starting off in the beginning, it really says that in the 2026 session, we will create new larger school districts and establish those boundaries. In 27, we will create voting wards within each school district for the election of school board members. November 28, the first school board member elections within the newly created school districts would take place. You're going to hear some disagreement between us and the governor on that. And we're going to spend a lot of time this week in our committee really discussing sort of what timelines are reasonable. To do this is really complicated. Creating entirely new districts and voting wards and all of that, it mostly falls in government operations, but you need redistricting councils and expertise and all of that. So we're going to be talking a lot more about that. The right people in the room. Our approach is to say that we need a small group of people with broad experience in the Vermont education ecosystem, as the secretary likes to say, to really understand all the nuances that would take to really draw district lines without making errors, without leaving students behind in some areas, not having access to CTE because there's a mountain range that somebody else didn't know about. We put them under the auspices of the Commission on the Future of Public Education for 2 main reasons. One, it's an established, well, 3, it's an established group. 2, there's a budget. And 3, and really importantly, is that the commission is devoting much of its energy to a robust public engagement program. And this would be tied and coordinated with that. I mean, we're talking major change, and we believe that doing that with strong public engagement is really crucial. Okay. We also have a section in there that's very specific, talking about class size minimums. I've been over that with folks before. Kindergarten 12, grades 1 to 4, 15, grades 5 to 12, 18, with lots of sort of exceptions and carve outs for all of those sort of special smaller groupings that you find in schools, CTE programs, sort of pull out sessions for students who need extra support, that sort of thing. The idea is to make these school size minimums part of our educational quality standards, for which there is a whole built-in sort of process for what if you can't meet them. Working with the State Board of Education, which is sort of in charge of the education quality standards. Then we move on to the next level, which is school size. School size is really a lot trickier because we don't have a school construction plan. No money or plan was proposed in the governor's proposal. So to say, okay, you know, as we build scale, or as schools perhaps have more and more trouble sort of meeting class size minimums because of geographic isolation or whatever it might be, and there are solutions more available for nearby schools, but it requires school construction to sort of require that, but not have any sort of proposal for a school construction program does not seem logical. So we have the school construction program. It's been a kind of a multi-year process working it out between task force and the legislature over and over again. So all of the details behind that are in here. What is not in here, of course, is the money that it requires. As we talk about scale and sort of keeping sort of the money within the system as we know it today, there also are proposed limitations on tuitioning. And these are actually rather similar to what the governor proposed in his original H-454. Limiting tuition dollars to public schools or an approved independent school that is located in Vermont and is approved under current law, and on or before July 1st, 2025, has at least 51% of the total students attending on public tuition, which is to say, which is to recognize really that in some areas of our state, independent schools have filled the role of our public school systems. We can think about the historic academies as part of that. And this sort of setting of criteria recognizes that public schools really do the main work here, but there are areas where independent schools have also provided an important part of our system. That is to recognize that. And then we have, let's see, and then we have a whole section on what we call statewide cohesion. So these are like having new standards for what every graduate in Vermont should meet. A statewide school calendar, having statewide systems that are uniform for financial data and student information systems. As we think about far fewer districts operating on bringing together totally independent computer systems, frankly, information systems, it won't work unless there's a real vision for what that data, how it needs to be managed and shared back and forth at the state level. We've asked the AOE to come in and talk about developing clear guidance regarding the business processes that would need to occur to facilitate mergers, and as well as have them recommend a division within the AOE to deal with school construction, because you can't just sort of throw money at a bill. You need people with expertise sort of shepherding it through. Finally, the bill recognizes the importance of the work of the State Board of Education, appropriates some money to them that was supposed to be in the budget, but kind of got lost in the shuffle, to help them sort of clear a backlog, as well as sort of help them winnow down to what it is are their core activities and what aren't. That's it. There's a lot more to it. I'm happy to talk with anybody else on the committee. Period.
A couple of things I'm going to ask you to share before we can take a couple questions is the vote on the bill, and when can folks expect it's going to be, make its way to the floor?
Okay, it went to Ways and Means today. It really depends on their work, which I think is hopefully going to be completed by Friday. So it means it'll be on the floor the following week. It came out of our committee on a 7-4 vote on party line.
And because we're only going to have time for a couple questions here, where you're having office hours as well?
I hope to have office hours, but probably just be sitting in the cafeteria, 8 to 9 on Thursday and 4 to 5 on Thursday.
Great.
Happy to have anybody sit down and chat.
Thank you. So 1 or 2 questions. So I see Molly and then Teresa. And if you can speak, we are without mics. They can't fix them. So just speak. Perfect.
I have a comment question. I hope you could prevail in the conversation about the need for thoughtful, change that's not on a fast timeline. It seems like with everybody wants to do everything all at once without consideration. And the other thing is, what would be the process if you have something before closing small school?
There's a current process that exists individually in each school district right now, all sort of mapped out through their articles of agreement. In the future, that is to be determined. One of the things is we create new districts next year and new boards and the powers of those boards. Those are going to be crucial things to be thinking about. There's been a lot of talk like it's really hard for a school board to do that work. So do you do it at the state level or do you, since we have larger sort of smaller boards, potentially, should the power rest there? That's a TBD for sure.
Thank you.
Teresa?
Thank you. I just, over the last 2 Mondays, had the opportunity to hear from approximately 300 citizens. We held 2 educational forums in our districts with some of the other members here. And I just want to say thank you for the thoughtful process, because that's exactly what we've heard from people. They acknowledge that change is coming. They know that things aren't going to stay as status quo, but they appreciate a more moderate pace and a pace that feels like it takes into consideration students, our education systems as they exist now, and all of the complexities of doing a change like this. So they expressed appreciation for the thoughtful process that is being undertaken. So
I just would comment and say that the timeline we lay out is probably more realistic if we are switching to voting on school boards, which is what is proposed with the governor and others on even numbered November election years. So like the first time that would have to be in 2026. That given everything that has to go into making this happen, that seems unlikely to be able to even be pulled off. So 28 then pushes it out to what I would call a more thoughtful schedule.
So we're going to wrap up there. Thank you for all the work that's happening in education.